Okay, I guess we'll get started. Welcome everyone. This is the first Recut Office Hours, and I wanted to just like see if anyone has questions and if anyone's struggling with stuff and stuff I need to make more tutorials about or whatever. I think it's a small enough group. You can just unmute and ask your question.
I mean, I think, the same question as you shared in the email of basically I record audio and video separate, and then what's the best way to use Recut with both of them? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Audio and video separately. Yeah, let's talk about that one first then. Share this. So I recorded a little demo video for this call with audio video separately. So I've got this files from my Sony camera, and I drag that in, and it gives you like two separate tracks. One for the green one is video, the blue one is audio. And then you can drag in the audio track separately. Um, you can also drag them in at the same time, and it'll just like clear the screen and show you. If you grab the audio and the video at the same time and drag them in, it'll um it'll do the same thing. I think it tries to put the audio ones at the bottom. But anyway, once you've got these in here, uh, it's gonna, try to find the silence and everything. But the first thing to do is to get them synced up. So there's no automatic syncing right now. That's the thing I'd like to add in the future. I actually have something that's like half built, but it's not super well tested yet. So I might add that in like a beta capacity at some point soon. But for now, it's just manual syncing. So to do that, you need to be able to move the clips around, and to do that, you can switch over to clips mode, this little segments clips button. When it says clips, you can click and drag these things around, and then you can zoom in either using the plus and minus keys or this little slider down here. And then in this video, I had some like claps, so I just like kind of visually line up the waveforms, and you can use the playhead as kind of a guide with that line there, and then just drag these around until they pretty close to line up. So one limitation right now also is that everything is snapped to video frames. So the closest you can get is a video frame. That's like something I'm thinking about trying to change to, but you get as close as you can within a video frame, and then from there it's all synced up, and you can do your silence removal and stuff. Um, Usually in this case, you've got you're in this case, audio is like the actual mic. I've got like a mic up here, and you want to mute the camera audio. So once you've got these playing, I don't know if you can hear this. Can you hear that? No, okay, not sharing computer audio. So once you've got them synced up, hit play, make sure it sounds decent, and then I would say click the mute button on the camera's audio track, and also click this little ignore button, and then whoops, that will take these silent segments kind of just like out of commission, like they'll just be ignored, so that it'll only pay attention to the ones down here. That's important. In this case, they line up really well, but sometimes if the audios are very different levels, you'll end up having like they're just kind of competing, and you can ignore the ones that are on the tracks you don't care about, and then yeah, and then from there you're pretty much good to go. So you can go over to export and take it over to Final Cut Pro or Premiere or whatever, and then import there. And I can show that too if you want to see it, but um, this is kind of the recut side of it.
So can I ask a question, please? One of the things I want to be able to do is if I have a video which is out of sync with the audio itself, the video file has the audio within it. Can
Oh,
you find a way to separate them and sync them up within Recut?
um, not right now. So you're saying like you have your camera audio, but the audio itself is out of sync with the video, and you want to
Yeah.
slide these two tracks apart. Yeah, so right now you can't unlink them. Yeah, unfortunately no, but that's a good thing. I've been wanting to add some sort of an unlinking thing. I think
Okay.
if you once I add that, you'll be able to unlink them, but yeah, not right now.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
Usually I do it on iMovie and then just bring it over here.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you could use another tool, get them synced up, and then export. Yeah, that's the way to
Okay.
go.
Thank you.
Hey Dave, just wanted to say thank you for the tool. I use it all the time.
Thanks.
Just
That's great to hear.
yeah, I've been making YouTube videos with it, and this is like the thing that I was looking for. I found it on a Reddit post or something. Yeah, thank you
Sweet.
for creating it.
Oh, you're welcome.
Just
Glad it's been
wanted
helpful.
to come up here and say that. By any chance, is there anything about like audio quality improvement that could be added to Recut?
I've thought about doing stuff like that. I've had some requests for like background audio or like background noise removal. It's kind of the main thing. And then there's also the yeah, I don't really know. I'm not sure how much of it like an audio processor tool I want to turn it into, but what kind of audio enhancement stuff are you thinking though?
So I use another tool called Screen Studio.
Oh yeah,
Are you
yep,
familiar?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and they just have a toggle on button that says just like improve audio quality. I'm not a sound
Okay.
guy, so I wouldn't even know, but it just
Okay.
makes it sound better.
Yeah. I should try that out and see what they do. Yeah, it'd be interesting. I wonder if they're doing like some local processing or some AI stuff or what. But yeah, maybe that'd be neat. Um,
It's
and
a
no,
literal
yeah,
toggle of a button.
just the
That's it.
checkbox. Okay,
Yeah.
no sliders or anything. It's just like audio better.
Mm.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
exactly. Anyway, thank you so much. Really appreciate the tool. I'm loving it. I use it pretty much every day. So thank you.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so yeah, so if you're on an older version of Recut from there was a Recut 217. Um, It was originally Mac only, and if your recut looks like this, where you just have like you can only import one file at a time and stuff, um, this app and the new app are like on separate update channels because I rebuilt the whole app from scratch and everything. Um, I'll drop a link in the chat for where to download this. If you go to go there. Um, you can download the latest one. I think you'll have to type in your license key again. I think it won't find the old one, but the same key will work. So if you need a copy of that key again, just email me at support or recut.com and I can look up your key for you. But yeah, that's the way to update. So let's go to C. Jackson's question about editing AIFF file. I think you should be able to do that in, yeah, so if you drag in audio, I'll just use an M4A for now. You can do your settings, tweaks and stuff. I can go over that if you want to, but the process is like drag in your audio, get it cut up however you want, and then go over to export timeline and choose Premiere. And oh, uncheck that thing. Export this, go call Premiere. And then let me see if I can actually open Premiere here. New project. Let's create an empty project. Sure. Okay, so from inside Premiere, you can, I think you can just drag in the XML file into here. Yeah, you can do that, and then it opens this up. So from here, you want to double click on the timeline, and then you get the timeline with all the cuts, and you can do whatever tweaks you want from there. There are some little tricks with Premiere. If you drag this timeline into a new one, um, I might be able to. If you drag this into an empty spot, then it gives you like one big clip, which I think is like a compound clip of all little ones. If you double click that, you can see the stuff inside. But this is a thing that trips people up sometimes. They say like, oh, there's no cuts. It's because like if you drag the clip in, it acts as one big clip, and if you double click on it, you can get the little stuff inside. So that's just like a tricky thing with Premiere. Also, the names are going to probably be the same. Like by default, Recut will name them the same anyway. So make sure you're double clicking on the one that has this little timeline icon. It's got little bars and a little playhead thing. Um, that's the one. If you have a video, I guess is more of an issue. If audio, it's obvious, but sometimes the video, the thumbnail is the same, and it's easy to end up clicking the video instead, and then it looks like it hasn't been cut up and stuff. So um, just make sure you open up the timeline. So let's see. I'll drag in this one with the camera audio. It's a good face. So let's go over to talk about the silence settings. So by default, this is like latest recut. The old one didn't have this slider, but this has a bunch of kind of presets for how close to make the cuts, and this is just kind of finding the audio and finding the audio based on the threshold, and then chopping it up. So if you click on customize, you can see all the settings you can tweak yourself. So these kind of work top to bottom, which is why I'm showing you this screen here. So the first thing that Recut does is like looks at the threshold to find where the silent parts are. And the auto checkbox usually does a decent job, but if you've got like background noise and stuff, it might not pick stuff up too well. Or if your audio is really quiet. So like if the waveform spikes here, like these little blue spikes are close to that center line, then you might have issues where uh, the auto threshold is not too good. But usually this is okay. But it's interesting to see like if you drag this up, you can see it kind of eats up more and more of the file, and this little band down the middle is like how wide the threshold is. So when that thing covers a wave, then that wave is considered silent. So if you make that small enough to where it just covers the kind of the middle center line, that's what auto is trying to do. Um, and when it does that, then it's like hopefully just cutting out the silent parts. You can also drag this little bottom bit here to make the waveforms bigger if you want to see more detail. You can zoom in a bunch so you can see kind of where the threshold is cutting off. Could even see like maybe a little bit of audio in there. And so that's the kind of thing where you can drag this smaller until it doesn't eat that up and stuff like that. So you can play around with that. And then from there, it's the rest of these settings kind of go again top to bottom. So the first thing is uh, minimum duration is going to filter out shorter silent parts. So as you drag up this slider, you can see it's removing the really small slivers of stuff. So as it gets, as this number gets bigger, you're saying that like anything under 0.7 seconds of silence should just like be ignored. So those ones get removed. And so this is kind of a helpful way to make sure you don't have a bajillion cuts. If you have a long file, um, one thing I've seen people run into is that it'll have like thousands of cuts when this is set to 0 and or this setting is set to super. And then if you export that into like Final Cut or something, it just like totally dies. Like it can't handle that many cuts. So usually a good idea to like if you're just using this like easy slider, notch it down by one or so. Like super is kind of overkill, I think. It ends up making like little single frame cuts and things like that that aren't very helpful. So that's minimum duration. And then you can see all the numbers here changed. This slider is really just setting these numbers to like some decent defaults. So I'm going to leave this at 0 so we can see what each of the settings does though. So this is kind of like maximum silence removal. And then padding is going to kind of pull the silence away from the edges of the speaking parts. So if I make this larger, if I make the padding bigger, it gives you sort of space around the silent parts. So this just kind of makes it sound more natural. I think it usually ends up being like around zero point 0.4 or 0.5 seconds. Sounds pretty natural to me. And there's really no like right answers here. It's really just like kind of what you want out of your video. If you want it to sound super cut up and stuff, then yeah, leave the settings close to 0. If you want it to sound a little more natural, um, increase them a bit more. And then this last one, I usually leave it at 0, but it's kind of doing the opposite of what minimum duration does, where like min duration takes out short silence. This remove short audio spikes setting takes out short audio bits. So I added this because I think it was like I had, Recut was doing a good job of finding the large chunks where I was talking, and then at some point I like bumped the mic or something, and so I got things like these ones at the end where it's like this is not intentional speaking. And if you increase this number, it's going to filter out some of those things, um, just to make it a little bit easier. And I think the bigger picture here is that these settings are meant to get you to like you know, 80, 90% of the edit. If it's, feel free to make manual adjustments, and that's where you can clip things and you can delete segments and stuff. Once you've got your settings like reasonably dialed in, say it's got like you're mostly there, except there's a couple things you wanted to change or remove or something. Um, the easiest way to do that is with the segments tool here. So you can switch between clips where we're dragging the clips around, or in segments mode, you're clicking on these little chunks of like blue and red. And so from here, you can drag the edges of these things if you want to like pull one away from some audio or cover something up. Uh, you can also, if you click on one and hit backspace or delete, you can flip its color. So that can let you that lets you like delete blue parts. So say like maybe, this is a mistake, and you can also drag a whole range. So if you're looking at the waveforms and you're like, oh, this is, these are repeated takes, uh, they're not in this example, but I think usually you can kind of tell if you said the same thing 5 times, like the waveforms look really similar. You can click and drag a box across a bunch of them, and then just hit backspace, and then that whole chunk is wiped out. And then this will be like one big chunk of silence that won't get played back, won't get exported. Um, Undo and redo work, hit Command Z, undo, and Shift Z to redo. And Windows, uh, Control Z, Control Shift Z. What else? And then manual cuts. If there's some chunk you wanted to cut out, you can use the little cut tool, split clip. You click this or hit B, it makes a new cut in the clip, um, not in the segments. So like kind of gives you an edge if you're in segments mode, or if you're in clips mode, it gives you a whole new clip. Now you've got two. And so this works like a lot of other editors where you can just like, you know, make a couple cuts, delete a chunk. It'll ripple delete by default, which means it like tries to close that gap. It shifts everything over to close the gap. If I undo that and I hit Shift Delete, then it'll leave the gap, which maybe you want sometimes. Like usually you don't, so that's why Ripple deletes the default. But and then you can drag the clips around and close it up if you want. So I think that's the core stuff from the video editing. What else? There's a skip button. So when this says skip on, if I hit play, I guess you can't hear this, but it's gonna skip over the red parts as it's playing back. And with skip off, where it just doesn't say skip on, then it'll play through them as if the cuts weren't there. So you can get an idea for like how it's gonna sound before you export, which is kind of why I built Recut in the first place. Like uh, if you just do a pass of like silence removal and you have to export it and then like listen back to what it sounds like and everything, it's slow, but being able to play back is nice. You can get a feel for like, oh, it's too tight. Like I'm just gonna loosen up the padding a bit or whatever.
Does it show up somewhere the time after the cut? So how much time you cut off?
Um,
So for
sort
example, I need
of.
a clip going, I need to go below 30 seconds or 1 minute. Do I
Oh
already have
yeah.
already deleted enough?
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, along the bottom, it will say what the
Ah,
duration is and what the amount is without silence. I think this only
okay.
shows up when skip is. Oh no, I fixed that. Okay, it used to it used to only show up when skip was on. Um, yeah, so that'll tell you what
Yeah,
this
okay,
was
I
like.
got the light screen, so that's why now I see it on my one as well.
Oh, okay, yeah,
You
cool.
have the dark mode on, I have the light mode on, and it's hardly a bit harder to see. That was easy.
Cool. What else? I didn't even talk about the remove silence button. That's kind of handy. This older versions didn't even have this. It would just remove when you exported, but you can click the remove silence button and it will like do all the cuts right here. Um, Maybe that's useful sometimes. There is like a fun special Easter egg. If you hold shift when you click remove silence, it like does this animation, which is kind of fun. Um, but I figured people don't want to sit and watch that, so it doesn't do that by default. Um, there's a little gear here which lets you customize how it does some of this stuff. You can have it cut the audio only, so if you want to like leave the video alone, but get rid of the audio parts. If I hit remove silence now, it leaves gaps. So some folks were saying like I want to leave the video, but like there's some level of like background noise that I want to cut out and just like actually remove. Um, so this does that. There is oh, this sections tab. I never talk about this thing. I think I don't think a whole lot of people use it. So this was an idea I had to if you wanted to chop up a whole file, I'll start with a fresh file here. You always hit like Command N to make a new project. It just wipes it out. Um, yeah, so this was like an idea to make batches of files. If you recorded, I was thinking like thank you notes or something. If you're gonna record a bunch of like, hey, thank you for buying this thing, or thank you for joining my course or something, and you want to kind of knock out 20 of them or something, you could leave a big pause between each one and then use this sections tool and pick like what is my kind of like section delimiter amount of silence. Like if you leave like a 3 second pause between each one, that would be big enough that you wouldn't leave a 3 second pause within a section. You could pick your section length or you know divider length and then create sections, and you get this little purple bar along the top. This shows where the sections are going to be, and then you could export those as separate files. So yeah, my thought was like recording thank you notes or something, and just record a bunch of them and export them as separate files and um, all at once. But I don't think it's a very widely used feature. Should probably talk about it more. It's kind of a special use case thing. Oh yeah, automatic. Yeah, Adrian, good idea. Automatic send to Final Cut. That'd be pretty cool. I think Final Cut has some ways to do that too. That would be neat. So like just from here, you go to like Final Cut or something, and then click send to Final Cut or something. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. I know someone else, I think, sent in a question over email that was like how to import multiple times into Final Cut, and I don't think Final Cut really does a very good job of making that easy. Um, so if you have something, and say I start fresh here, I'm just going to export the same thing twice, I think. Call this one 1, and then I'll just like delete a big chunk and call this one 2. Import this into Final Cut, and then import 2 into Final Cut. So I don't think there's a way to import a project into Final Cut into an existing project and like merge the timelines automatically. But I think the way to do it would be just import this as a separate one and then open up this timeline, take all this stuff, and then go over to one and paste it in here. Oh, and this is reminding me, I told someone I would do a multicam demo, so I should do that. So I've got my camera, I've got another camera, and I've got the audio. Drag those 3 in, and that's going to give me, this is my just like Sony camera. This is my iPhone, which is like a side camera, and then we've got the audio down below, and this is like the microphone up above. And so, um, as I was showing earlier, the first thing to do is sync them up, and because there's no automatic syncing yet, you can zoom in with plus or minus, drag this thing, and then drag these around to line up the claps. So here's the clap here, put that there, and then there are the 2 claps here, put that there. And this is, I think, probably as close as we're going to get it when it's snapping to frames. As I mentioned earlier, that's another thing I wanted to try to fix, but right now everything snaps to video frames. So once you've got these 3 things lined up, probably the best thing to do is to mute and ignore the tracks that are not your primary audio. So if like your microphone is, say, this one down here, you can mute and ignore the other 2. And then when you go to export and timeline Final Cut Pro, check this multicam beta box here, hit export, and I'll just call it multicam, and double click that, and then it opens it up into Final Cut Pro, and you can drop it in here. And then this is your project with all the cuts. This clip with little 4 boxes is the multicam clip. So if you double click on that, then you can see all the angles and stuff. Um, I told it to I told it to ignore the audio. No, I think I tried this earlier. Remove muted tracks, like Final Cut Pro ignores it, so you can go in here and um remove your audio. But once you've got this, you can come through here and like change your angles and that one's angle two or whatever. Play around. So that's the multicam workflow. Not sure what else to talk about. Any more feature ideas, Adrian? Not much else to talk about,
No,
I
but
think.
I was thinking about right now the threshold portion of it that you were talking about. That sometimes we have maybe some noisy audio because maybe we're outdoors, maybe vlogging or something, and we want to just quickly get some clips. So I was thinking, what if maybe I could just do maybe I could first enter it into Final Cut Pro, reduce the do the background audio removal or that new feature that they have in Final Cut Pro, and
Yeah.
then actually import it in here and then make the cuts because then like the sounds will or the threshold will be a lot lower. So then we'll get better cuts rather than these really choppy just because it's thinking that some of the noise might be some of the speaking.
Yeah, I think that probably that's the way to go for now. At some point, I don't know if you were on the call at that point, but I meant someone else asked about this too, and I think I'd like to try to add some sort of background noise removal thing to Recut. Uh,
Okay.
but I think I guess there's a couple ways I could do it. One is like it could actually modify the audio to like remove the background noise, but I could also just use the like the audio with noise removed as the
Just for the
silence removal.
yeah, just
Yeah,
to
just for
analyze it.
analyzing.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then leave it
Yeah, that would
alone.
be
I think that's
good.
probably what I'd do. Because then you could take it into then it'd be like untouched audio and you could do whatever you want in Final Cut or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But yeah, for now
Okay.
your idea, like take it into another tool and then back. Yeah.
And then back in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you. That's
Yeah, man.
definitely a great app. Thank you.
Thanks.
Take care. Have a good one.
You too. See you.